Hey, Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. And isn't it a great Monday? It's a great Monday when the New York Giants win. I hope everyone got to relax and enjoy their weekend, basking in this glorious division rival upset that the Giants provided over the Eagles. And you got to relax and enjoy the other games. And I hope you really got to enjoy the Cowboys losing to the Panthers, because that was chef's kiss, icing on the cake. Your next Commanders, cannot wait to see them hopefully lose. But I want to go ahead and talk about where the Giants are at. Now they're 2-4. You know, the thing that's so frustrating to me is that they should easily be 3-3. They should have won the Cowboys game. They could have been 4-2. And that, I think, is the most frustrating thing, because a lot of conversations that I'm hearing is the Giants have to bring back Dable. Look at what he's doing with Dart. You have to keep everyone, blah, blah, blah. And the thing about having a good quarterback is they disguise some of the issues. So like Brian Dable just didn't all of a sudden become a good coach overnight. There are still issues with this team. They are still 2-4. And at the end of the day, like Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. They are a team who shoots themselves in the foot and has a lot of mistakes that they bring upon themselves, a lot of missed opportunities. Now, what I hope is that them not only beating the Eagles, but really proving that they were capable of whipping up on a team like that and playing so well on all three sides of the ball. I hope that that means that they're going to take that and take it week after week after week and continue to improve upon that. But it is nice for the first time in a while to have some hope. And I don't know if you guys watched the Jets and Broncos Sunday morning in London, but after watching that game, the Broncos are not very good. And the Giants should be able to go to Denver and beat them after their performance that they put on against the Eagles. Now, the thing that's so frustrating about the Giants is that they had a similar game. It was not as much of a butt whooping, I guess, if you will, against the Chargers. Like, they came out lightning hot. They scored on the opening drive. They continued to score touchdowns. They had some success in the red zone. They were able to force turnovers, things like that. But ultimately, the game came down to the wire. It was very close. They win this game, and then they go to the Saints, and they shoot themselves in the foot, have 5 turnovers, and lose the game. And then they come back and they beat the Eagles. So in theory, they are a good enough football team who can go out there and beat the Broncos. I think they're capable of doing it. Obviously, the question is, will they? We'll find out. So this week, today and tomorrow, we're recapping the win, talking about the good and the bad. Luckily, of course, there's a lot more good than bad. And then Wednesday, we're flipping the page to the Broncos. So I want to talk about the offensive line, because when we talk about the Broncos, we're also going to talk about this. Matt Peart, the same Matt Peart who was a New York Giant tackle who was atrocious in everything he did, was one of their starting tackles today because they lost their tackle due to injury. And it didn't go well for them. So all I have to say is that if Matt Peart is out there on Sunday, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, and Dexter Lawrence are going to feast. And I can't wait to see that. Now, that being said, we need to talk about the Giants' offensive line, because I am still horrified by the amount of comments that I see from fans that say that the offensive line still sucks. And the only thing I have to say to you is you are not watching the same football games that I am, and you are most certainly not taking the time to go back and watch the film. So if you think this offensive line sucks, I implore you to go onto YouTube, type in New York Giants versus Eagles film review, offensive film review, whatever. Watch some clips from the offensive line, and you're going to change your mind. I promise you. Because even though Jackson Dart was sacked 8 times in 3 games, what you need to know is this: the majority of those sacks were not on the offensive line. Andrew Thomas has been a game changer since he's been back for this team. Jackson Dart, after taking 5 sacks against the Chargers, said in his postgame that that was his fault, that he took sacks that he shouldn't have taken. And it's not going to happen again. And you know what's happened? In the last 2 games, he's only taken 3 sacks. And again, most of them were on him, not on the offensive line. So he's improving, which is great. So is this offensive line. This is why so many of us were so devastated when Andrew Thomas was not going to be back for week 1. We need to discuss Andrew Thomas, because I know everyone loves Scat and they love Dart and they love to talk about the defense and the takeaways and all of that. Andrew Thomas deserves a shitload of praise. In 4 games, in 130 pass blocking snaps, he's allowed 3 pressures, 0 quarterback hits, and a 2.3% pressure rate. Andrew Thomas is playing at an all-pro and Pro Bowl level. And what's amazing to me is the fact that him just being on the team has made every other offensive lineman better. How many of us have been complaining about John Michael Schmitz? That he can't bully anyone, his run blocking sucks, he gets trucked by every defensive lineman that comes his way? That has not been the case. He played his best game in the NFL as a New York Giant against the Eagles. And the craziest part about all of this is that he left the game with an injury. Austin Schlottman comes in off the bench, in at center, didn't miss a beat. Was in there like nothing happened. The offensive line was finally able to push people, to maul people forward. It's like all of a sudden they all have upper body strength and can do what I've been complaining about them for a while. And on top of that, they're able to run block. It helps having a good running back. It helps having a mobile quarterback. But they are taking this to the next level, and they are playing light years better football from an offensive line than any of us have seen in almost a decade at this point. And they need to be talked about, and they need to be talked about positively because they are doing a damn good job. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. And you know who else deserves credit for that? Carmen Brasillo. Because I know there were some iffy question marks about him last year. James Hudson did not look great this year when he was in, but he absolutely has helped JMS. I'm sure part of it is Andrew Thomas, but the way this offensive line has come together and has been able to mask some of the issues, like the fact that they're still not great at run blocking, like the fact that John Runyon is still not a great left guard, and GVR is not amazing either, but they're playing well as a unit, and that's what matters. That's how you take that step forward. That's how you start to open up those holes. It's just been amazing what they've been able to do and how much better they have gotten every single week since Andrew Thomas has been on the field. I am so proud. I am so happy as a Giants fan to be able to watch a functioning offensive line, to be able to watch my quarterback run an offense instead of getting sacked every single play, instead of turning the ball over because he's getting mauled left and right, instead of leaving the game every single time because he gets injured. When Jackson Dart leaves the game, it's because he lowers his head and goes straight forward into people. He's hanging out a little too much with Cam Scadaboo. I need him to not do that. He's gotten yanked for a concussion every time, but it's not because the offensive line is collapsing and he is getting hit by 5 different defensive linemen and getting pulled to the ground. He's not getting the types of injuries that Jones was getting, knock on wood. So the offensive line has done a really nice job. I'm very proud as a fan. It's very, very wonderful to watch. So much so that I was tweeting back at Jermaine Illuminor and I was like, I don't think you understand what us Giants fans have been through. And we love you guys so much. Like, please never stop. And he liked it. So I was like, good. I'm glad that he saw it and he knows like there's fans out there who appreciate what they're doing. And Scadaboo had tweeted after the game, how about that MFOL? And Illuminor retweeted it. And I was like, I love this. I love this. All right, let's move along and talk about the defense because I know the defense is like also has been lighting it up and has been super fun to discuss. So I want to talk about a couple things. I want to start with Cordell Flott because how about this stat? He's been targeted 28 times this season. Do you know how many touchdowns he's given up? Zero out of 28 targets. He has a passer rating of 66.5 per Next Gen Stats. Cordell Flott has been so much better than I think any of us thought. I think a big part of it is the fact that the Giants have a new cornerbacks coach. I know there were a lot of concerns last year, and I thought at the time it was a bit of a scapegoat thing that they ended up firing Jerome Henderson, who was the DB coach at the time, because him and Tay Banks were not really getting along. And maybe it's just Tay Banks that's the problem because Cordell Flott is improving just fine. And he has been playing better football, but he's much better this year. Marcan Manuel, I don't know if it's him. He's the new CB coach. He seems to be doing a nice job. I'm sure that part of it is because the defensive linemen are doing a damn good job of putting pressures on the quarterback. But overall, he's been great to watch, and it's been fun, especially knowing the fact that this season, one of all of our biggest concerns was the cornerback. And he's not perfect. He has a lot of things to improve on. There's no questions about that. But when so many of us were like, oh my God, are we going to get stuck with him if Tay Banks doesn't make the cut? And now he's light years better than Tay Banks is just crazy. It's crazy work. So I'm glad that he's having a nice time. Next up, I want to talk about the fact that some other things about our defense, talking about the turnovers. Drew Phillips is, of course, leading the way with 2. Dexter Lawrence has 1, and then Cordell Flott has the other one. So they're up to 4 on the season, which, again, the Cordell Flott one, like coming off that's a huge play that swings the momentum so easily in the Giants' favor. And the fact that the offense was able to go out there and score points off of that, not just 3, they were able to get 7 and get a touchdown in the red zone. Complimentary football, it's so, so important. But I want to give this defensive line some credit where credit is due, because I know we're all like obsessed with everyone and they're so fun to talk about. But Brian Burns, the thing that I love about Brian Burns, aside from like his work ethic and that he gives 100% every single time, he is so versatile. So now we're finally getting more of Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeaux, and Abdul Carter on the field, because you can put Abdul Carter in at his best natural position, which is an edge rusher, but then you can use Brian Burns like a linebacker, like a middle linebacker, because his tackling skills are unbelievable. His speed is fantastic. And the way that he just can spot what's coming from the offense immediately and make the play is incredible. And on top of that, he's also a freak when it comes to being an edge rusher. He has 7 sacks this season. As of today, because I'm recording this on Sunday, he is leading the NFL in sacks. We'll see if, I believe actually he's tied with Benito now with 7. So we'll see if after this weekend he can stick and still be there with number 7. But he has just been incredible work. All I have to say is if Matt Peart is back at tackle on Sunday, Brian Burns might be in the double digits after that game. But Kayvon Thibodeaux, who's also having a fantastic year, he has 2.5 sacks. And the thing with Thibodeaux and Carter is that just because they don't have as many sacks as Burns doesn't mean that they're not playing really good football. And I feel like, sometimes it's hard to tell, right? Like when you're sitting there and you're locked in on a game, you can't watch every player at once. You see the person who made the tackle, or you see the person who is not where they were supposed to be, or you're like watching Dexter Lawrence. It's hard to always focus on everyone. So it's why I'm such a big proponent of going back and watching some film. You don't have to watch the whole game, but there's a lot of good creators. I know everyone knows Bobby Skinner, and he's a great one at it. Big Blue Banter also does a fantastic job of breaking down the offense and defensive film, but they all really break it down detail by detail, and that's when it really shows up for guys like Kayvon Thibodeaux and Abdul Carter, what they are doing on the field, the pressures that they are getting, how they are getting to the quarterback, how they are opening up Brian Burns to get there and make the sack. Like, without those guys on the field, this defense is not as successful putting pressure on the quarterback without the 3 of them combined. So I think that also needs to be discussed, that just because Thibodeaux and Carter don't have 7 sacks like Brian Burns does, doesn't mean that they're out there doing nothing. They are also causing a lot of disruption for the quarterback, and it's really important. So overall, I love this defensive line. One of the things that we talked about this offseason was that bringing in Abdul Carter was going to allow someone like Brian Burns to really be able to get after the quarterback. And my God, no truer statement has ever been made, because he has been incredible. So I want to continue on with the defense for a second, because I don't know how many of you know this, but Bobby Okereke's family is from Nigeria, and over the summer he went to Nigeria because he is helping get their flag football program off the ground, and there's a 2028 flag football Olympics that the Nigerian flag football team is going to be participating in. So he hosted a fundraiser at his house in New Jersey on Friday, and I was lucky enough to attend, and it was fantastic. If you guys want recap videos, they're on my Instagram at New York Giants Fangirl. And I got to talk to him after the win, which was so awesome. And, I asked him what the locker room was like and what the vibes were like. And he said, it's a real big shout out to guys like Dart and Scadaboo, the energy that they have brought into the building. And we've heard this from a lot of people at this point, right? But to hear it from a defensive player, that the energy that they're bringing on offense is translating to all of us on defense and helping all of us play better football is so, so important. So I also asked him as a defensive player what he thinks about the tush push. And, I think he kind of didn't want to like poo-poo it too much, but he just said he felt like they were in a good position to stop it. And obviously they were able to stop it a couple times. I said it would also be nice, if they called the false starts, and he kind of laughed and was like, yeah. So, it was just fun to talk to him about that and hear from a defensive player's perspective. I think the tush push finally is on its last leg after the Eagles doing that 4 times in a row. When you have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, just So embarrassing for the Eagles. But I love that it's finally going to get banned. And hearing from a defensive player, like, I'm sure they're all just rolling their eyes like, oh, here we go again, this shit again. Like, try something different, would you? But the Eagles aren't good enough to try anything different, like we saw, right? So anyway, go Giants. Bobby O is fantastic. Make sure you check out that video and all the work that he's doing there. The Giants were there and they announced that he is their pick for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So go congratulate Bobby. It's an honor, very exciting. He does a lot of amazing work in the community, outside of the community, in the U.S., out of the U.S., and he's having an amazing year. He is one of the top leaders in tackles in the NFL. So we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about the Giants versus the Eagles. We have a couple more things to discuss. And then, like I said, Wednesday, we're flipping the page to the Broncos, going to be talking injury updates, players to watch, keys to win, things like that. So subscribe for more.